Welcome back to my channel. This video concerns the insanity surrounding the case of Karmelo Anthony, who stabbed Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet. He was convicted and sentenced to 35 years in prison. And sure enough, we get small-time and important political or social leaders behaving badly, though one side is ultimately just doing more damage to itself. And the video clips I show of Jasmine Crockett's statements are just stunning. Let's start with the complaints from many in the black community. I'm going to first focus on a key complaint that may have had some validity. At least I can see why blacks would be upset, whether it is ultimately justified or not. The complaint is that there were no black members on the jury. Now, some overstate the case because they'll complain that it was an all-white jury, except it wasn't. But it is true that there were no blacks on it. Yet the all-white claim is stated with great confidence, just like I showed being done by internet trolls and a politician already. Some are probably honest mistakes, but this is one of the things I try to help you avoid. For example, I saw lots of people on the internet say that Anthony had previously been suspended from school because of a knife-related incident. But near as I can tell, there isn't anything to really back it up, at least not yet. But the claim is all over the internet and in AI anyway. That's a problem. I can understand concern when there are no black jurors, but they also need to avoid knee-jerk reactions or assumptions themselves. Let me express my point by making a general observation. Pretty much any time you hear of a white man shooting a black man, there are instant accusations from the black community that the man did it because he is racist. What bothers me, and should bother the black community, is that these accusations are made before we know any of the actual facts. It's almost like some people want to stir up as much division as possible before real facts interrupt their agenda. This practice actually hurts the black community, and that's a serious problem. If you declare everything is racist, people are just going to ignore you when it is racism. And when you make these charges before the facts come out, you are revealing yourself to be untrustworthy, no matter what race you are. I'd be interested in knowing why each potential black juror was eliminated. I know at least one said they would have a problem sending a brother to prison. Of course, they shouldn't be on a jury. I think 3 were eliminated because they were public high school educators. I can't see why that would prejudice them. So yeah, this doesn't look good to me either. But I just want to hear an explanation for why these things mattered before making a final opinion. But I can understand the concern from the black community about this. On the other hand, I can think of a good reason for not allowing some blacks. Besides the example I gave of one saying he had a problem sending a brother to prison, it may well be a general concern of any prosecutor that this attitude is common, whether the potential juror admits to it or not. I've certainly heard many blacks say such things, but I have no idea how widespread it is. But since it only takes one such person to result in a hung jury, I can see why the prosecution wouldn't want them. This is one of the ways blacks hurt themselves. They may see it as balancing the scales. I can understand that, but letting a guilty person go because of their race is a really bad option, especially since most black crime is against other blacks. The only long-term solution is for people to seek justice in each case and don't play to racial preferences. Don't try to get even, because the revenge factor never, ever ends. Let's look at this clip of a black woman who said she used the Freedom of Information Act to see a video that the jury didn't get to see. She does make claims that it shows people entering the tent and that Anthony was defending himself. But that seems to contradict what witnesses said and other videos showed. But consider this part, which strikes me as strange to include as a defense.
You can see Karmelo trying to back out, but he gets pulled back forward. And he had to kind of crab crawl backwards and he had to like jerk away from them because they still had a hold of his hoodie. He runs diagonally down the bleachers and then he falls. At the time of him falling, that's when I noticed another 3 boys coming down the bleachers chasing after him.
That's describing what happened after the stabbing. So what she described is pretty much what you should expect. A person stabs someone and then tries to get away while others try to stop him. No mystery there. But I saw claims that this somehow proved it was self-defense because Anthony only stabbed one person and was trying to run away. But cause and effect matter. Running away and being chased after you stab someone only shows you were trying to get away, not that you were defending yourself. And stabbing just one person doesn't actually show self-defense anyway. It only shows you stabbed one person. People who commit crimes do tend to run away to avoid being caught. The lady also says something else that seems quite wrong.
Karmelo was only 5'8", 130-something pounds, and Austin and Hunter Metcalf were 6'1", 220-something pounds.
This is similar to the unsupported claim that Anthony had been suspended from school, which seems to have had no factual basis, yet gets repeated. This time it is that there was a huge size and weight difference. Well, from looking at many sources, I found one that said it used the biographical data from the schools and it came from actual news media. So at least it is more likely to be correct. The Metcalf boy was listed as 200 to 220 pounds and is 6 feet tall. Anthony was listed as only 1 inch shorter and at 160 to 162 pounds. Now, sure, that is significant on the weight difference, but nothing like this lady claims. Of course, just because someone is bigger than you doesn't mean you have cause to fear for your life anyway. Certainly not enough to justify stabbing them. Another person who claimed to see the video said,
"Why wasn't that video presented in court? It's starkly different from the testimony given in the trial."
Well, we don't know why. There are often good reasons for things that we don't understand at first. I'd certainly like to see that video or know why it wasn't allowed, assuming that is true. As for what it showed, there was another video. Turns out some witnesses for the defense had to retract their claims after they saw that video. For example, one who testified about events was visible on the video, down the field, facing the wrong way when the events happened. He had to admit he was wrong. Another testified that Anthony was surrounded by other students before the stabbing, but the video showed he wasn't surrounded until after the stabbing. He also had to admit he was wrong. Why would he do that if the video didn't contradict his original testimony? Interestingly, those people I showed a moment ago also made claims that Anthony was surrounded first. Since an actual witness saw a video which made him admit he got the order of events wrong, I suspect he wasn't the only one. It makes me wonder if the video those 2 people said they saw, but the jury didn't, was actually the same one the jury saw. You see, it had not been publicly released, but it was allowed to be seen, but not recorded, by various news media. As such, their Freedom of Information request could be used to get to see that video, and those 2 people only thought it wasn't seen by the jury. Mistakes happen. I'm also seeing a pattern to write off what you don't like in advance, like doing this.
Now, once we get that video in appeal court, here's the problem. The 9 appellate judges in the Texas court are all Republicans, extremely conservative Republicans.
Since one of them is black, he can't just play the race card again, so he makes it all about them being Republican. Once again, if anything doesn't go his way, he gets to write it off. But now we're about to enter crazy land with Jasmine Crockett. Her statement serves as a great example of how always using race to play the victim card just ignores reality and common decency.
Black women, especially Black women who have Black male children, live in fear and agony every single day. A fear and agony that I promise you, the Metcalfs probably never spent a day living that way.
Amazing lack of intelligence on display. but she has to make sure, no matter what actually happened, blacks are always viewed as the biggest victims. Just use your head. Crockett says the Metcalf's family probably never spent a day in fear and agony. You know, the parents who just lost their son and had been threatened, been victims of swatting tactics, and had people threaten their other son. You have to be really stupid and insensitive to make a statement like Crockett did. But there is more.
Wait a minute, was it a switch? I don't know what he had.
It was like it seemed like it was a multi-tool, almost like a Swiss Army.
Like with like with the little scissors and everything and whatever. So it was small. Well, I would have argued the size of it alone, you wouldn't even think it's a deadly weapon.
I bet the victim's family are really glad it was not a lethal weapon that killed him. Or maybe Crockett doesn't understand the word lethal. By the way, this picture seems to be the kind of knife that was used with a 3.5-inch blade. Just so happens to be long enough to puncture Metcalf's heart. That will usually be lethal. That it also includes a small flashlight and window breaker doesn't change anything. Let's not forget that, regardless of what kind of knife Texas allows you to carry, you still aren't allowed to bring one to a school event. Yet Anthony did. And the testimony of witnesses reports Anthony daring Metcalf to touch him, while Anthony had his hand in his backpack, almost certainly to have his knife ready. If so, then he was prepared in advance to instantly strike out if he was touched. There are always questions in any court case. It is best for everyone that we don't present made-up or even illogical claims as fact. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.